Here's the kit, stock, built out of the box, no paint, not too impressive, looks okay. It's a good base to work from. Then here, with bare plastic, minimal paint, marker pens and weathering. Yeah, Gundam Marker Pens. Hey guys, mostly up until now I've been showing you things that I know really well. I'd like to mix that up for you and show you some test runs of stuff that I've got no clue about, and this includes Gundam Marker Pens. Now I have used a somewhat similar product. I've used Copic, the marker pens that are alcohol based, and they're not bad. But let's give these a test out. I was pretty excited to check out what it said on the back of these. I mentioned to you guys that I speak, read, write Japanese, but the back of the package is absolutely useless. It just says, yes, use these pens. I'm not kidding. It's absolutely useless. To double check with it, I asked my wife, she's native Japanese speaker, I said, please check these for me. Am I missing something? Are there some clues here that I should know? No, it just says, yes, write these, use these on your models. Boom, giveaway. Yes, I'm giving this away. Please click the button, top right of your screen. I got two versions. There's the basic marker pens, and then there's the ones called Real Touch. I mean, they both sounded kind of cool, and that's what was in stock. Here I'm using the most basic type. Now, on the back of the instructions, it says ink, but it's not ink. It's not even close. As soon as I uncapped these, I could smell that it was lacquer-based, Japanese lacquer-based. So it's probably made, they're made by Mr. Color, so I could tell it was lacquer-based. But, there's different ways that they can soften these compounds, etc. So I'm going to test out a handful of different ways and see how they work, including the little pens that they give you inside the kit. They give you one, it's a clear pen, and it says like keshigomu. It says something like that, that means, a remover and a way that you could spread it. It doesn't go into a lot of detail. Now, I needed to get the ink moving. You needed to push down against the model to get the ink moving from these. That was easy enough. Now here I am. I've got the removal pen, and I was thinking, wow, this looks pretty good. Sorry I got off camera. I'm still learning it, but it did move them off. You're not missing any, even with my very crappy video work here, you're not missing anything, because what I found was it did move them. It was really hard. I wouldn't want to use this on a painted surface. Of course, that's not what they're designed for. They're meant to be used on bare plastic. And it did work okay, but wait until you see what happens. I can't wait to tell you. What happens is, it leaves this really awful, crappy, powdery residue on the plastic, and it just looked horrible. I was really disappointed. I was mortified. These are not on the must-buy list. These are the hell no list. I'm trying to stretch. I'm trying to pull the ink out. I'm trying to do anything with it, but no. There's no love. There's no joy. There's no nothing. Much nothing. I was feeling pretty kind of, lonely, upset, sad, samishi about now, because the nib was really, really hard. So at least with the Copic markers, the nibs are soft and you can use them to kind of push around details and what have you. But it's a hard plastic nub, and I was not enjoying this. It wasn't fun. No good was coming of this. I've got to tell you, I know I'm overusing this gag, but I'm telling you, much disappoint. Oh well, that's how it works, right? We've got to test these things out, see if we like it or not. But you can see that white crappy residue, and I'm trying to wipe it off, and disappointed. Oh well, let's see what we can salvage. Here I'm trying to create some additional weathering effects if I can, and it's about here that I really discovered that they do have a slight lacquer component in here, because it did melt some of the lacquer paint that I painted into the detail here. Now just imagine if you put any acrylic paints on these models and you use this stuff on them, it's just going to rip the heck out of them, and it won't be pretty. Okay, well that's enough heartache on those ones. Now let's go with the Real Touch markers. I mean, they sound better, Real Touch, and it says to give a, on the front here it says that they're supposed to give you more of a realistic look. I'm hoping it's kind of a paint suspended in the pen. I gave it a shake, but there's no paint sloshing around sound. It's just feels like a kid's texture type pen. It's supposed to work in a similar way. It says painted into the details to get some ink into there. It went in a little bit. It didn't run as well as the first set of pens. And the color was not as solid. It was a little bit weak. It was a nice warm gray, had that going for it, but it was quite weak feeling. It didn't even feel like a, you know, a permanent marker. You know that sinking sensation you get when you use a permanent marker on a whiteboard in the office or at school? Not quite even like that. This set also comes with its own little remover pen. It looked promising. The nib looked a little softer at least. Stretching it out here, and again, just not a lot of fun, not a lot of joy. Putting the ink in, using a nib, using a pen, just like with Copic, I don't mind that. It seems somewhat okay. But using these eraser slash, you know, they're supposed to be pens with thinner in them, I guess, to manipulate the ink to make it do something we want. I don't think it's a tool that I'm going to get into. If you're really stuck with it and you just can't handle a brush, maybe give these a try. But the time spent and invested on getting a brush to work for you to do some of this work will just pay a lot more dividends. I mean, unless you're going to, you know, there's no good comeback. Even being a graphic artist these days, you're going to do it with a stylus. You don't want to be using these kinds of pens. You can see all that white crap there. Oh, just not liking that. This one didn't leave the white crap, but it was just so limp. Little side test opportunity here. I've still got the Real Touch Marker clearer pen, removal pen in hand, so I'll test it out and see if it removes that white junk I'm talking about from the first set of pens, the first remover from that. It re-wet them a little bit, but it didn't really do much for it, so no, that doesn't work. Okay, so far so fail. Let's flip it over. As you can see, I've been working on the back of the model. When you're testing out new stuff, that is the way to go. Test on the back, so I've flipped it over. I'm going to go with the first set of markers. They seem to have a little bit more promise. Now what I've done is I've pushed them a little bit harder into the plastic to get more ink flow with them. And that worked reasonably well. Now that I've got one little technique that seems to be okay for me, I'll try it out in some other places on the model around the paint. So what I've basically turned the marker into, I'm not using it as a push and point device, I'm using it as a flow. I'm pressing it in against the details and letting the ink that's held inside of it flow into it. And it's actually, for that purpose, it's not too bad. You know, this is a very standard way I'll go through things. I'll test them out, as we all do, and you know, through a series of escalating failures, you'll eventually stumble across something that gives you a kind of okay result. Now, the ink from the first set of markers is not bad. It's nice and dark. This one's I did want black. I wanted high contrast here. It's a very dark gray black. It's good enough, and flowing it around here, I want to see how it looks when it dries. And it has a low enough viscosity, it flows quite well, and so once I'd figured this out, I was able to go around the model very quickly and drop it into the panel lines that I wanted to accentuate, and so far so good. Flipping the backpack around, I want to make a special note here. Now if you guys are using a different paint to me, the white paint that you see there, that's Gundam Color by Mr. Color, and it's a semi-gloss paint. Now, the reason I make mention of this is many of you are asking me, you know, can I use acrylic paints? And of course you can. They're your models. You can use whatever you want, and I'm happy to show you different ways of making that work. Now, if you were to use something like Vallejo here, or Ammo, which is very popular, you'll probably be best served if you put a slight clear coat over it. I know it's adding steps, which is a bit of a pain in the backside, but you want to protect any work that you've done. Now, with the Mr. Color paints, you don't have to. They're pretty bulletproof. They're very hard. One of the reasons I like them is I'm an idiot and they're idiot proof. So, if you do use a softer paint like that, do a quick shot of something like, I know in the US, Testors Dull Coat is very popular. It's very good. I myself, I can get Super Clear, Mr. Super Clear in the can, and I just love that stuff. It's never failed me. It's consistent, just love it. But yeah, clear coat it if you need to. 9 minutes in, finally the Gundam makes an appearance. Now you can see this is how it looks, just painted without any the details of doing the panel lining in. And you can see it improves the appearance a great deal, but they look quite flat. And that's one of the reasons I think with the Gundam property, Gundam models, Gunpla, they because of the flat panel lines and the way they're put together, they really benefit. You've got to do the panel lines. It's if you could only choose one thing, I would do the stickers and do the panel lines. That's what I've learnt anyway from doing Gunpla so far. Now, 6 months from now, I'll probably disagree with previous old Lincoln, but at the moment that's how it looks. Now, back to what I'm actually doing here. I'm going with the drop the mic, drop the pen, drop the ink method here, and I'm finding this is working with me pretty well. It has a good workflow that I just need to press it. I need to keep the tip pointing down. These pens are obviously not pressurized, so it's a gravity feed, and I'm pushing the nib there against the plastic, and I'm getting pretty good flow. Now, one of the good reasons I think is that I'm putting this on the bare plastic. That was a really good idea. Well, and you know, it's not my idea, that's Bandai's idea. So I'm just working with them. I think when we do full repaints of Gunpla, these markers are not going to be the way to go. I just thought I'd better throw that out there. Most of the techniques and different principles and methodologies that I'm working with, most of them are mix and match, but this one will kind of be a standalone. When we want to use the bare plastic of our Gunpla, we can use the marker pens. And so far so good. Using this around the bare plastic details, it's nice and quick, and you can see here I'm dropping it in here. Every now and then the paint would stop, and that's mostly because I'm tipping the pen up to get it into the viewfinder here to make sure I'm getting it on video for you guys. But all in all, mostly I'm just dropping it into the details here. There's a couple of places where it's too deep and it's just sucking up the paint, and there's not a lot I can do about that. But most of these places, it's adding a lot of good depth. It's running pretty well in most places. There we go. See that main down the back of the thigh there? It went down most of the way, but that is actually a recessed detail from putting the kit together. But the detail below that, I'm about to hit that now, boom, look at that. Look at that. That one's rolling really, really well. There it goes, just about to join up. And come on, roll with me. No. So I'll leave it a little bit and see if that will eventually click up, and I'll flick around to the model again. Now, putting it onto the some places that have paint on them, if it's a flat paint, it will spread and discolor the paint, and you won't be able to get it off. That's just also another heads up. You'll see it here. I do it on the back of the legs of this guy, and I don't think, you know, you could say it's somewhat of a fail, but it's also a way of discoloring and adding a weathering step. So, you know, all good. I'm sure you guys have also discovered this. Sometimes our biggest failures, or the things that go the worst on our models, can end up being the best learning experiences and something that we can make the next model look really awesome with. So, you know, all good. Plus, my wife joked with me. She said, okay, so maybe you're going to mess up a $10 Gunpla. It's not going to be the end of our lives. And, you know, as usual, she's very right. Like a guy could ever admit that his wife is wrong on YouTube. Oh! Alrighty, the Gundam Marker Pen, the Keshi pen, is no good. It's out of here. I'm done. Finished. So, let's try some other stuff. What I thought I could test out would be to add some of this Hobby Color Thinner by Mr. Hobby. It's the Suisei version, they call it. It's the water-based alcohol version. It does contain a slight amount of lacquer. Don't let them trick you. But for our purposes, it's the soft, eco-friendly bunny one, and this doesn't have bad fumes. It's not too bad at all. Now, putting it on the world calls this, what, a Q-tip, cotton bud? Putting on one of these things and rubbing it away from the details, and it's working okay. Already, I like this more than using the Keshi pen. The Keshi eraser pen is just rubbish. I'm going to chuck it. I'm not using it. So already, this is already at this stage of doing the video, this was my go-to, but it does get better. I did figure out even better ways than this, and I'll share it with you in the full video. Now, I did try a few things here just to test out how it would work. It's soft. It didn't harm the plastic at all. I had no issues with Bandai plastic cracking up whatsoever, even putting a fair bit of this stuff on it. Some places where the ink from the first set, not the real touch marker, but the first set of the Sumire, they were called the panel lining pens that I had. Some of them, it did have trouble drying off. Like wiping off. It had dried off so much that it didn't wipe off easily anymore. I had to really push hard, do quite a bit of elbow grease. So now, as you'll find, even a strong paint like the Mr. Color lacquer paints, some of it will rub off. If you put enough of this thinner on it, it doesn't say it on the packaging, but it does. I just know from using it, it does contain a little bit of their lacquer thinner as well, and it will rub off some of your paint. If you were using this over Vallejo's, they would strip straight off. So word to the wise, be careful with this technique if you're using soft acrylic paints like that. Likewise Tamiya, or if you're using Tamiya acrylic, or Mr. Color, the hobby color range, it will take them straight off. But if you're going to use this on bare plastic, the white section here on the feet that I'm doing it on, that's the white plastic of the kit. It's cleaning up okay. That's why I went further with other tests. I wanted it to be a little bit easier. I'm not sure I have a little bit of work, but you can see there, the Q-tip, the cotton bud, there is ink getting onto it, but I'm having to push a little bit too hard. What I don't like about that is if you have to push hard, you're going to push into the detail, it ends up pulling too much of the ink out. So, you know, I wanted a quick and easier wipe off. And I did achieve that. I'll show it to you soon. But this one worked pretty well. You can see here, remember I was talking about how it dirtied up flat places. See the back, it's got little vents there on the back of the knees there. I put some of this, the ink from the marker pen straight in there on top of the orange. That was the mission model paint. It didn't take that off too much, but as soon as I started wiping in there, look in there, you can see as I pull it back, oh, it's got quite a bit of orange paint on it. So the Mr. Hobby, the acrylic thinner there, that'll take mission model paints off really quick. So I don't think I got straight into danger area there, but it did happen. Now the Humbrol on the back of the legs there, safe. No problem at all. Didn't touch them at all. So there's something we can use next time for sure. And this part was very, very helpfully falling off the model constantly. Great thing about Bandai things is you can put most of it together without glue. Bad thing about Bandai thing is some of the parts won't stay on without glue. So this one gave me the opportunity to really kind of beat it up with the Q-tip here. I'm still using the Suisei, the water-based acrylic lacquer. I'm really sorry. In my mind, I learnt how to call this stuff in Japanese. I'd never really spoken about it in English before. You call the lacquer one's called lacquer, and then the water-based one is called Suisei. So when you learn those words, it doesn't matter if it was English or Japanese the first time around. I just learnt it as that. And yep, I guess I'm a bit of a freak, eh? Sometimes I have no clue which language I'm speaking. Down here on the lower limbs, I really wanted it to be a little bit heavier. I planned to really heavily weather the feet on this one because, you know, I kind of have to divert some of the attention away from being a really lazy bastard and leaving it bare plastic, right? But this worked all right. You can see the ankle detail there looked pretty good. Now, here we go. Things just got serious. I wanted to take it up a notch. You know, the water-based thinner was working okay, so that must mean the acrylic, the lacquer thinner will work super good. Or it will completely ruin it. It'll be one or the other. Let's have a look. Seriously though, I was noticing that it was taking quite a bit of force to take off the ink from some places on this, and I thought, well, if I'm going to try it on the bare plastic, let's see what it does. I mean, the worst case scenario is I just repaint it, right? Now, it took it off really super easy, super quick. Look at that. It's just a very light touch and it wiped it off. Now, compared to how much I liked the previous processes, I hate them now. I've instantly hated everything I've done up until now, and I'm loving this one. It's so easy and it's nice, but it stinks. Well, why is it never? Why does it always got to be that way? The one that smells really bad, makes me want to throw up, is the one that's magical. And then the one that smells great doesn't do jack shit. Why is that? It's just the way it works. But anyway, be super careful with this one. The lacquer thinner, because you know, some of these softer acrylic paints like that Mission Model paint in there, the orange one, that one will just zip off really quick. I tested it out too. I rubbed it a little bit too hard in a couple of places on the knees, and it created some realistic chipping on the white paint there. But what it really did was it burnt it off. It ate it off pretty quick. But these areas where I was having trouble on the other leg, comparatively on this leg it came off super easy. Now I was wondering if it was going to crack or damage the plastic at all, but I've had people tell me, buddies have told me that they've had trouble with the lacquer thinner in particular making the plastic crack. Nothing no problem whatsoever. Now you can see I'm not dousing the model in it. I've just got a little bit on the Q-tip here, rubbing it against the opposite areas there, and look at that, it's coming off really nicely. This was super easy to do. Actually, thinking back now and looking at this as I do my voiceover, I'm going to do this again. If I've got bare plastic, this was a really quick way to do it, and it dried up pretty nicely. Didn't leave any nasty marks. Everything came off clean and well, and it was dry in seconds. That's the other good thing about this, the lacquer thinner. And you know, this didn't smell too bad. It wasn't that heavy. And look at that, working in the direction of travel there. These areas on the back of the leg, you can see, boom, that's just taking it off straight away. Looks awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely going to do that again. I liked it a lot. Now going in here, I knew I had to be extra careful to not take off too much here. So a quick wipe the direction of basically the direction of travel of the detail there, and it cleaned it up and gave me a nice clean edge there. And then using the dry end of the cotton bud, whoop, took a bit too much off there, spoke too soon. So I need to reapply that bit there. By this stage, I felt like I'd gotten a little bit better, my technique had improved. Now, I remember this is actually the first time I've done this. It's not really a tutorial as showing my epic failures, etc., and testing this model out. I went with the top half here, and I had to move around the orange plastic. It's not orange plastic, the orange paint. Yeah, you know, my own video, I don't know what I'm doing. And going around the details, by the time I got to the top half of the body here, I felt like it went really well. Now look at that, see, it had come out a few places. I got a little bit of a, you know, the drag. Make sure you're pulling it down across. I mean, you guys know how to do this. You kind of pull it in the direction you want it to have a bit of a streak. And you get, not only do you get the detail of depth in there, but you get like a free streak mark in the process. And you know, it looked all right. This was very clean and easy. It's not really painting. I don't feel like it's something that I've really achieved. It's not a skill set thing that I would be writing on my model making resume. But for the purpose that I wanted to show, and testing out these marker pens, they have a bit of a purpose. Now, what I'm thinking I could use them for, now just say I was doing an advanced weathering piece, like something like on my machining cricket kits. What I'm thinking I could do is, if I get into a later stage of development, and I've got plenty of depth, etc. If I find a spot on the model where I had forgotten to put in like a panel line or a little bit of depth or something, I could pull one of these pens out and within seconds add a quick detail, add a little bit of ink to a detail area, let it dry quickly, Q-tip it off, boom. And within, say, the space of a minute, if there's something that I've forgotten to do, I could probably then use this as a recovery. So I'm thinking that might be what this is useful for. But the other thing is too, that every now and then I might want to just do a really easy Gunpla like this. It's kind of like those mental health builds we as modelers talk about, and just jump into it and do some of this. Because I'm pretty happy with the finish of this model. It's different, it's a first for me, but it looks alright. Actually, I look at the finished photos again and I think, it's up there with one of my favorite finished builds now. And I didn't even paint the bloody thing. It's 90% bare plastic, and I've just kind of goofed around with these marker pens. So yeah, maybe there's something to that. This was fun. That was one of the things that was cool about it. It was fun. I did like using it up here on some of these white areas. This is very Gunpla, isn't it? These white sections, and I needed to just very carefully zip it off there, but leave enough so that it was a shadow. I know some guys, when they're doing Gunpla, they have the panel lines are very precise, but I like a certain amount of blurriness for my look. But all good. Alrighty, marker pens finally done. Thanks for making it through this, and next week I'll get on to show you how I did the final weathering touches for it. It was some chipping for the feet, a little bit of metallic wear and tear on a couple of places, and some dust effects, etc. Thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate all the support, and hope you like the series so far. More soon. Bye.